And we're back. Welcome back to the SBA Innovation Ecosystem Summit. I'm one of your hosts, Jamila Corbett. As a reminder, the website americaseedfund.us is your go-to resource hub for ecosystem builders like yourself. So make sure you give it a visit and take advantage of all the information that's available to you. Our next session features expert leaders in SBA's Innovation Ecosystem Network, and they'll be sharing the program's value and relevance to your success. Leading this discussion is Eldon Hawks. Eldon serves as the Partnership and Innovation Specialist at the SBA's Office of Investment and Innovation, a role that supports the advancement of America's Seed Fund programs. He manages the agency's federal and state technology partnership programs and spearheads outreach efforts targeting minority-serving institutions. But before we get started on this panel, here's a quick video on what America's Seed Fund is and the impact it has had over the last 40 years. Since its inception, America's Seed Fund was designed to be a gateway of equitable access to high-tech innovators. Growing from $40 million in 1983 into the country's largest source of non-dilutive funding, the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer programs now provide over $4 billion each year in funding to small businesses in a wide variety of technology areas. In the 1970s, advocates began championing the National Science Foundation to support the research of small businesses to advance U.S. global competitiveness. A pilot program was designed and run by Roland Tibbetts, an NSF program director who is considered the father of the SBIR program. The phased structure remains to this day. The pilot's success led the Small Business Administration to conclude in 1979 that all research agencies should have an SBIR program, with Congress legislating the SBIR program in 1982. SBIR funding was critical to some of today's largest household names in industries including Qualcomm and Symantec. To date, America's Seed Fund has supported almost 200,000 awards, totaling more than $60 billion, resulting in economic and a national impact that can only be partially measured when we consider the massive medical and social innovations that impact our daily lives. As we continue to seed the future, the Small Business Administration is focused on ensuring that America's Seed Fund is equitable and customer-centric to build a thriving national innovation ecosystem that invests in all innovators, because great ideas come from anyone and anywhere. Through the federal and state technology partnership program and our Growth Accelerator Fund competition, we will ensure entrepreneur support organizations reach and support innovators who have been historically left out. What's next is simple. If you are an innovator, no matter the idea, no matter the technology, America's Seed Fund will be there to help you change the world. Learn more at SBIR.gov.
Hi, everyone. I am not Eldon Hawks, but we are experiencing some technical difficulties. So again, like the innovators that we serve, we will roll with the punches. So welcome everyone to today's panel, Power and Reciprocity, Ecosystem Builders and America's Seed Fund. In this panel, you're going to get to hear from a few of the expert leaders in SBA's Innovation Ecosystem Network as they share personal insights and experiences about how their organizations work with America's Seed Fund for mutual success. And from there, we're going to open up the conversation to talk about tips and best practices for working with SBIR agencies. So as I said, we have a great lineup today, and I'll get right to introducing our panelists. First, let me welcome Amy Beard. Amy is Program Director at Senfluence, which is a program of the Florida High Tech Corridor. Senfluence is a leader in helping to build a thriving innovation community in Central Florida. Senfluence works with companies to build new partnerships, secure grant funding, and launch new products. And now I get to welcome Maria Labrevo. Maria is the Executive Director at the Kentucky Science and Engineering Foundation, which is part of the Kentucky Science and Engineering Corporation, where she has served over the past decade. She brings with her a background in nonprofit organizations, business planning, mentoring, proposal writing, and fundraising. I also get to introduce Matt McMahon, who will be jumping on soon from another event. There is so much exciting stuff happening in the innovation ecosystem. As Director of SEED at the National Institutes of Health. Oh, there we go. Here's Matt. Matt leverages his experience in public policy, business, science, and medicine to accelerate the conversion of scientific discoveries into impactful healthcare solutions. SEED coordinates NIH's nationwide portfolio of early-stage product development projects and provides technical and business support, entrepreneurial training, and private sector partnership opportunities that enable innovators to improve public health and drive economic growth through cutting-edge medical technology. Panelists, welcome. We're glad to have all of you here. Hopefully Eldon is able to fix his technical issues and you won't have to talk to me. But to begin the conversation, I would love it if each of you would just spend a minute explaining about your history working with America's Seed Fund, the Small Business Innovation Research and Small Business Technology Transfer programs. And so let me go in the order that I introduced you. So Amy, would you like to start?
Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks for the opportunity to be here. Welcome, everyone. So my personal story with SBIR actually started back in graduate school when I was getting a PhD in chemical engineering. My research advisor had a startup that was SBIR funded, and I also participated on an NSF goalie grant where I got to interact with a company that was SBIR funded. And at that time in my career, I really had no idea what it meant and what the opportunity was. But in 2014, I took a course, a 3-hour course at Georgia Tech, and learned all about the program and what it took to apply. And at the time, I was working as a research director at a startup and was able to successfully secure some funding as a PI for the company that I was working for on an Army SBIR program. So that's how I got my start. Since then, I've gone on at companies managing SBIR STTR awards, about $3 million at 2 different startups. And then in my pivot to my role as an ecosystem builder, have helped support hundreds of companies in their applications for the program here at the Florida High Tech Corridor and in our Synfluence program. So happy to be here today. And I will turn it over to Michelle.
There. Maria, how about yourself?
Hey, thanks for having us here. So I had no idea about the SBIR until I joined KSEF as a program manager and I was doing R&D funding at the time. So I slowly learned about, commercialization and what are the opportunities for research entrepreneurs, right? And what does it take for somebody that is at a university to translate their findings into a commercial technology. So I've been working on learning myself about SBIR at the same time that I tried to, share the knowledge for over 12 years. And yeah, that's my story with SBIR. I have served in panels. I have also served as advisors. I have written my own SBIRs some have received funding, some haven't. And I have definitely read a lot of and commenting on a lot of proposals. So all of my training is on the job, I should say.
And Matt, you might have a different relationship with the SBIR and STTR programs?
Well, I do a little bit. I guess my introduction to the programs probably also comes early in my career. I worked at a medical device company, a small medical device company in Southern California. And we did have some SBIR support, but I think it gave me a much better perspective on the role that small business program, the SBIR and STTR funding plays in the whole commercialization landscape that a small business has to navigate. After that, I came to DC and spent some time on the Hill, and I actually was professional staff on the House Science Committee, which has joint jurisdiction over the small business programs in the House. After I left the House, I went to NIH. And at NIH, I had a few different roles, but in all of those roles, I've been kind of helping to coordinate and understand how NIH can leverage the small business program as a way to make sure that those basic science investments that we're funding all across the entire landscape of the life sciences, how we can use the small business program as a way to push those technologies into product development and into the early stages of becoming healthcare products. And as part of that, in 2013, we started building this national network of proof of concept centers. And that network is basically sitting at the intersection of academic product development, sitting in the academic and nonprofit research setting, helping those innovators to change their mindset from doing a science project to doing a product development project. And in the course of doing that, spin out small businesses and be able to effectively make that transition to product development. So in the seed office where I am now, it's our mission to really help those innovators turn their science projects into product development projects. And part of that is coordinating NIH's $1.2 billion a year SBIR and STTR programs.
Thanks so much, Matt. And I want to bring my colleague Eldon back on. He's going to just be a voice so that his camera doesn't make Zoom crash, but you will hear, I guess I'll ask the next question, so it gives him a chance to get settled. But, you know, I think really the theme of today's conversation is reciprocity, right? And so where you see shared value for both entrepreneur support organizations, like the ones that you represent, Amy and Maria, and government agencies in the collaboration. And Matt just described this proof of concept network and academic institutions. So, you know, where do you see shared value for both ESOs and federal agencies in collaborating? And maybe Matt can start there, and I will turn off my camera and hand it back over to Elvin. Sorry, Matt, you can answer first.
Well, sure. One of the key aspects of these proof of concept centers is that we're actually trying to build regional ecosystems. So we give funding to support these proof of concept centers, but we also require matching funds, non-federal matching funds from the local environment. And that's really just a way to make sure that there's buy-in and there's shared participation from the local community, from the university itself, from local economic development agencies. And so it's really that ecosystem building takes a lot of different players. And we've seen our most successful centers combining, you know, industry expertise from their local environment, mentoring from local product development experts, and that funding also from areas in the region. So I think those are all critical components that can work together to achieve success.
Thank you, Matt. Amy, how about you?
Thanks, Eldon, and welcome back. So the number one need that we hear from our entrepreneurs and our Senfluence initiative and really across the broader Florida innovation ecosystem is that funding for proof of concept or pilot projects that Matt's talking about here. So, you know, these entrepreneurs, they're out there searching for these resources and support when really their time and talent is best spent on that product development and building their innovation. And then, you know, conversely, on the government agency side, you know, we have these critical needs for speed and scale that startups can offer in terms of their new ideas, you know, new innovations to really solve problems. And guess what? They have billions of dollars in funding out there to support that activity. But they don't have oftentimes that direct relationship and that sort of what we talk about in the corridor, trusted informed relationship with these individual entrepreneurs. And so that's where we as ecosystem builders really come in to help bridge that need. speaking the language of the entrepreneur, understanding what their needs are, but then on the other hand, also understanding, on the government side, some of the process and requirements and it can be complicated. So we really help educate and kind of translate and ensure those synergies between the entrepreneurs and the government agencies are aligned, so that we can, connect those good ideas with funding to really solve problems. So that's where we focus.
Yeah, I agree that synergy is definitely very important in that collaboration, also bridging that gap to ultimately the stakeholders and those organizations who need the help. How about you, Maria?
Yeah, I'll second what Amy and Matt shared. It's as for especially, I started working with mostly researchers at universities. And then I moved on to the ecosystem at large. So those that have, some have a lot of experience on research, but very little experience on the business side. And then the opposite, they have experience on startups maybe, but they have very little experience on research. But for both groups of people, the learning curve and the amount of time that they have to dedicate to be able to just access, these fundings to determine, what agency within the agency, what institute, in the case of the NIH, what program, where are how do you build that strategy using SBIR funding as a tool to grow your business and not just as a funding, right? It takes a lot of time. When I started on this journey, I said, I think it takes about 400 hours to submit your first phase one. And I challenge anybody to tell me that it was less than 400 hours from the minute you learn the word SBIR or SBIR or STTR to the time that you submit your proposal. That does not include getting funding. So it's a huge investment on the entrepreneurial side. So what we try to do is learn as much as we can from the federal programs, from the federal agents, so that we can translate and make those 400 hours, make sure that it's not more than 400 hours. If we could cut it in half, that'd be great. But at least make sure that it's not more than 400 hours.
Right. Maria, I think what you just said, especially starting out, is very good into our next question. So I'll have you go first on this next question. We have some folks in the audience who are very new to American Seed Fund. Maybe they've never interfaced with it at all or worked with their startups to understand the funding availability. What would you recommend in terms of how they should get started from a practical standpoint?
From the entrepreneur side, I would say the first thing to do is find who are your resources in your community. They might be at the university level. They might be organizations like ours. We work at a state level, but not everybody works at a state level. Try to find who's your first point of contact. From an ESO point of view, I would say try to learn as much as you can about the capabilities of that entrepreneur, that researcher, that startup, and see how you can start connecting them so that they can slowly start learning about SBIR. But think about the long process of a strategy, right? What are their needs? You need to learn a lot about the startup to find out what are their capabilities and what are all the opportunities that you have to think, and not think about a one-off, right? Okay, you're going to go, this is your first time, you're going to learn this, you're going to submit to the NSF because that's the first goal. But think about it on a long-term strategy so that you capture all their possibilities, and you make them think about all the possibilities and develop that business case for each one of those opportunities.
Understood. Amy, how about you? Where's a good practical starting point for an organization to get into America's Seed Fund?
Yeah, I'll echo what Maria shared and kind of build on it. At the state level, many states have the federal and state technology partnership program. So look in your area for organizations that are funded through that. Their mission in life is to help entrepreneurs, access this funding and help support. So look for that in your state. And again, in your entrepreneurial ecosystem, you're looking for organizations that have that research and development or innovation kind of high science component to them. And then on the company side, one of the things, and Maria touched on this too, about the 400 hours, I always suggest that the entrepreneurial team be the one to write the grant. And I know there's a lot of resources out there for grant writers and support, and I think it's great to get support. But one of the things that I see, and it touches a little bit on what Matt shared as well, you're changing this from a science project to that product development project, and part of that is communicating the value of your innovation and presenting that business case for it. So it's really important for entrepreneurs to develop that skill set within their team and not try to outsource that. And then adding to that a little bit, in terms of where to start, understanding those topic areas and identifying your alignment with the various federal agencies and where your area of focus and your innovation fits if you're an entrepreneur is really the first step. And that's the key to getting started and kind of opens the gate to everything else.
Understood. Very good points. Very good points. Matt, how about you?
Well, great feedback from Amy and Maria. I agree with everything that you said. Leveraging all of the resources at your disposal, really understanding where you need to go. For the National Institutes of Health, we try and give as much assistance as we can, and you can find tons of resources at our website, and our website is seed.nih.gov. So you can find tons of resources, including sample applications in different product areas. And many people find them super helpful to see an example of what a high quality application looks like. Another thing is we really encourage people to find the right program officer at NIH that's matched up with their project area. And we have tools to help you do that, and to talk to those folks, because it's kind of a misconception that those people don't want to talk to you and don't want to help you. They do actually want to talk to you, and they do want to give you advice and guidance. And so our office can help connect people, can help connect applicants and companies with the right program staff. But I would say really the most important part is to try and understand what a quality application looks like and what the components are, and then find out from the program staff at NIH whether your project is well aligned with what they're looking for, and then just leverage all the resources you can. We have an applicant assistance program that's designed for people who've never had an NIH award before, but we also have tons of webinars and have held entire conferences with all the sessions recorded and available that help people understand the different components of the application. So I would say the place to start for NIH is our website, seed.nih.gov, and you can find links to all those resources.
Thank you, Matt. Now, with this next question, I'm going to start off with Amy. Now, Matt, you have to excuse me, both Amy and Maria of grantees of mine, so I may be quite partial or biased. But I'm going to start off with Amy on this one. Are there any specific examples that you have of ways that your organizations collaborated across the public-private sector divide, and what are some of the outcomes that you saw?
Thanks, Eldon. I'm going to use our SBIR Catalyst Award to the Florida High Tech Corridor last year as an amazing example of this kind of partnership. Because of the SBA's vision for the program, it was the inaugural program last year, and we were one of 8 groups that were selected for it. It really brought together this network of university-based entrepreneurship programs to tackle a problem within sort of the SBIR program, and that is making sure that we're getting awards into the hands of underrepresented entrepreneurs. And we specifically focused on women-owned companies here in Florida. The team here in Florida at the universities, we looked at the data We identified companies, women-owned companies that had been successful in securing SBIR funding. We tapped into them as mentors and role models. We created a series of role model videos, allowing these amazing women entrepreneurs to share their stories of how SBIR really enabled and helped them to grow their companies, to integrate into their product development strategy, and to grow and create jobs here in Florida. And so around that sort of aligned goal that we all had, we expanded those connections out and started really generating ideas about what it was that we needed at the ESO level to address some of the need and the opportunity here in Florida to bring resources. And so we used that sort of focus group or targeted group to build our support into the FAST program. So we're this year a first-time FAST awardee in Florida. And we've built a statewide network for SBIR support with more than 40 of our ESOs here across Florida, and just launched here at the beginning of October. So we're really excited to bring those resources and really support more at the ecosystem level so that we can scale some of those impacts.
Thank you, Amy. How about you, Maria?
Well, I have, the curious examples, and I have a ton of examples from the small ones that are, just pointing entrepreneurs to the appropriate, agency and program officer, and the program officer responding to their request to, our organization is a nonprofit. So KCC is a nonprofit, not affiliated to the state of Kentucky's government, but we do work closely with the government and with the state, and we receive funding from them for SBIR outreach. So for example, receiving the FAST award, and we've been very lucky, and we're grateful for having received the award many times over the past 15 years. We've been able to grow our know-how and basically provide a long-lasting service around SBIR for the state of Kentucky. So I would say, those they go from the small examples to the very important funding examples like the FAST award.
Right. That's a very good point. How about you, Matt? I'm very interested in seeing where you're coming from with this from the NIH perspective.
Well, I'm going to actually move to the other end of the spectrum, because I mentioned a little bit about the proof of concept network and sitting at the interface between academic product development, academic research and product development. But on the other end of America's seed fund is another problem, especially in the biomedical space, because you can do early product development and feasibility testing within SBIR, but it's really expensive and it takes a long time to get biomedical products actually into the healthcare marketplace. So you can think of the America's Seed Fund as just contributing at the front end of that process. But one of the things we've done at NIH, and this is part of our public-private partnership effort, is we've set up relationships with the Angel Capital Association, with a bunch of investor partnering meetings like Bio and Resi and JP Morgan. We take those companies that we've supported through the small business program, and as they reach the end of their awards, we train them up to go out and pitch at these meetings. And we have relationships with these meetings. So we purchase a bunch of slots for our SBIR funded companies to present. And it's a way to really try and help those companies transition across that gap into successful private sector development, because we don't want to just take projects up to the edge of a cliff and then send them out into the wild on their own. We want to try and prepare them to take those next steps and build the relationships with the funders, the investors, the venture groups that are really going to be necessary for them to make it all the way to the end of the road. So I think you need to kind of help out at the beginning of the pre-America Seed Fund, but also at the back end too. And so we've been working pretty hard to make that happen. And we've seen some good returns as a result.
That's excellent to hear. Now, madam, keep this last question starting with you. What do you think are some of the biggest hurdles today between government agencies that have funding and are looking for solutions and small businesses that have viable technology solutions? How can ESOs help?
Well, I think Maria touched on this a little bit with the barrier to entry for America's Seed Fund is significant. There are a number of agencies that have been super innovative in ways to make it easier to access the funding available through SBIR and STTR. NSF has some innovative programs on that side. DOD, NIH were really constrained by law, by legislation, to have 2 levels of peer review and to use grants and contracts and cooperative agreements for our awards. But I think trying to figure out how to really streamline those barriers to entry, make it easy for people who don't have experience with the program to submit applications and rapidly get feedback about them is really going to be critical to making this resource more accessible to people who haven't used it before.
Thank you, Matt. Amy, how about you?
I would echo what Matt shared, and then add on to that this idea of ESOs being that connective tissue and really building that trusted, informed connection between the entrepreneurs and the federal agencies. And so when you have an ESO that understands the value proposition that the entrepreneur has to offer, and then also, how to connect that into the federal agency needs, it reduces some of those barriers, and it makes it a little bit less intimidating for the entrepreneur because they have someone walking alongside them to get through some of the fear and the intimidation and the mindsets that might prevent them from being successful, of just thinking that this might not be for them. So I think ESOs really learning the process and being able to guide entrepreneurs can be a huge help. And then I would also add that it's really important that federal agencies, ESOs, all of us are really reaching into those communities that don't know about this opportunity or the support that's out there. So making sure we're including women, people of color, veterans, and others. These communities have so much to offer to the science and technology of tomorrow. And so we need to make sure that we're getting funding into their hands if we really want to see those new bold ideas come to reality. So that's another challenge I see, just kind of continued effort on outreach into those underserved communities.
Understood. Great points, Amy. Maria, how about you?
So I'll touch on scalability of what we do. It is, technology is ever evolving. As a startup, you're here one day and you may be completely out of the picture in a year. So as an ESO and as an agency, you're constantly trying to build your community and grow it, but that community is not static. So, today you're like, you learn about somebody's capabilities, a company's capabilities, and then in 3 months you find out there's an opportunity, but that company may no longer be interested or may not be ready now because and it's happened several times to me. It's kind of frustrating, but it's very frustrating. But the scale, our ability to scale the services is, it's something that we've been trying to poke at with different ways, and we still haven't found the right combination of tools.
Understood. That's always an issue, something ESOs all the time have talked about, really making that connection. While, it's an important, but really finding ways to really make that connection and get the entrepreneurs from point A to the right agency, it can always be a bit of a pain, I'll say. But we're drawing on time, so I want to thank Everyone so much. Thank you so much for our panelists today. It has been a delightful session. If anyone would like to get in touch with you, how can they reach you? And I'll start off with you, Maria.
I think at my our website is right there on my background. Otherwise, just maria@ksdc.com, and I'll put it on the chat.
Thank you, Maria. How about you, Amy?
We're FloridaHighTechCorridor.com, and my email address is amy.beard. It's a funny spelling on beard, so I'll put it in the chat as well at FloridaHighTechCorridor.com.
Thank you, Amy. How about you, Matt?
Great. You can find us at seed.nih.gov, and you can find me individually at mm@nih.gov.
Thank you, man. And don't forget, we do have a breakout session, but right now, for those of you who may not be familiar with America's Seed Fund, we are very excited to announce that we're launching a new self-paced online course specifically designed for busy entrepreneur support organizations like yours. We'll be rolling out early in the new year, and if you'd like to be notified when it's ready, sign up using the link in the chat. Now we have a short video overview that we'll play for you.
Welcome to America's Seed Fund. The U.S. Small Business Administration is pleased to announce the launch of Navigating America's Seed Fund, a guide for entrepreneur support organizations. This free online course is designed to help organizations and community leaders who work with entrepreneurs to develop a base of knowledge about the small business innovation research and small business tech transfer programs. This self-paced course is a tool to help educate and empower entrepreneur support organizations across the country to act as ambassadors on behalf of America's Seed Fund. Completion of the course will allow you to feel more confident in addressing frequently asked questions, identifying companies that might be a good fit for SBIR STTR funding, and supporting local high-tech small businesses through the application and award process across any of the 11 participating U.S. government agencies. The overall program consists of 3 separate courses, each with a unique curriculum. Each course is designed to be completed in about 1 to 2 hours. At the end of every section, there is a quiz to check for understanding and links to additional resources, as well as a downloadable PDF presentation, ideal for sharing information with members of your local innovation ecosystem. These courses are not for individual companies or entrepreneurs. They are only available for those that provide support and training to the small business community. If you are someone who works with small businesses, sign up today for the Navigating America's Seed Fund course.
All right. Thank you, Eldon, Jennifer, Amy, Maria, and Matt. Let's give them a round of emoji applauses. I'm really excited for the upcoming Navigating America's Seed Fund course. Don't forget to visit americaseedfund.us to get involved with the ecosystem and sign up for various updates. We just shared the link in the chat to sign up for that update. This has been such a great day so far. Let me know in the chat what's been your key takeaway. If you share, I'll give you a thumbs up on your comment to let you know that I've read it. We all know the value of collaboration, and we want to ensure that we set aside time for you all to connect with each other and to hopefully make some new friends or build on the ones that you've already made right here in the chat. There are 4 breakout sessions happening from now until 3:30 p.m. Eastern. It's an opportunity to dive deep into a topic area, share your thoughts, and participate in some interesting conversations. To join, just look at the tab on your screen that says breakouts. You're going to click that tab. I like that sound. Then click on which breakout session you are most interested in. I'll meet you back here on the main stage at 3:30 p.m. Eastern to continue with the program. See you soon.